Chasing Giants with Don Higgins and Terry Peer. Brought to you by Osier Camo, nature's most lethal camouflage. Follow along as Don and Terry discuss the techniques, strategies, and dedication needed to harvest one of God's most amazing creations, world-class whitetails.
Welcome, everyone, to the Chasing Giants podcast, episode 318, brought to us by Osier Gear. I got the road warrior Don Higgins with us in a sleazy hotel somewhere in Wisconsin. Stage up for a deer show tomorrow. Don't come back with bed bugs, buddy.
Sorry, I had to chase a cockroach away.
If you bring bed bugs back to Robin's house, you're going to be in trouble.
Oh, she'll never let me hear the end of it. She don't like me leaving anyway, so if I do something like that, that'll be the end of my consulting career.
All right, well, full disclosure to everyone listening, Don is in a hotel in Wisconsin, and the Wi-Fi is not very good. We've played around with it. This is the best we're going to do. I hope that the audio and video comes through okay. There's a little bit of an echo. We'll see what post-production looks like, but bear with us as we get by from a hotel with poor internet. So, Don, we got a lot to talk about today. We're kind of past that point where we've got announcements and product releases and all that kind of stuff. But this week, we're kind of transitioning out of our heavy consulting tours. We're wrapping that up here in just the next couple of weeks. I want to spend some time talking more about what we've seen on the road consulting in some of our last jobs, but we also have published a lot of good information here, most recently on the YouTube channel that I want to dive into. So we got a lot to talk about, including some really good questions from our listeners. So as always, let's just dive into this first segment brought to us by Osier and talk a little bit about what you've seen this last week. Have you been touring around on this northern swing of yours?
Yeah, so I've got 10 properties to look at here in Wisconsin, and I'm over halfway through. Actually, by the time this is released, I'll be about done wrapping it up. But it's been interesting, to say the least. You know, one of the most interesting things I've seen was the first property on this trip. The landowner could not be there, so he sent a friend of his that hunts the property as well. And I'll tell you what, I really like that approach. That's the first time that's ever happened in all the hundreds of properties that I've done. But there's been a few times where I've been by myself and nobody was there. But it was kind of interesting to have like a third party that knew the landowner and knew what the landowner would say and what he would allow, and was very candid with me. And I think that's a really good approach. And I wasn't sure what to think about it at first. But I got some real candid feedback about the owner. Nothing bad by any means, but was just giving me the brutal truth about what was probably going to be allowed to happen and what was not. And a lot of times I think the client doesn't want to, influence what we're going to say about a property, so they just kind of go along with the flow. And you send them a plan and you're not sure if it really gets done or not. And that was just really interesting. And then, I was on a property yesterday that was the farthest north property that I'm going to do on this trip. It was up in the north woods, a bear country actually. That client had 22 different bears on one camera on that property, but some great cover, some of the best bedding cover you could ever imagine. A tornado went through that property in 2019 and just leveled the place. Well, they came in and they harvested all the trees that got blown down. A logger came in and salvaged all the lumber that they could, or the logs, and it's grown back. So it's been 6-7 years now, and it is just some of the most fantastic bedding cover I've ever seen. The regrowth is coming on, lots of weeds and briars and saplings and woody vegetation, and it just looked fantastic. But obviously food was the weakest link in that area. You get up that far north, and yeah, there's a few ag fields and such, but the key to that property is just going to be food, no doubt about it. And the more food, the better. There was enough ag fields on that farm that I would put them all into food and let the deer have them, because I think that they might. I mean, it was a big 600 and some acre farm, so it can hold a lot of deer, especially in the wintertime when they get herded up around food sources. But that property is 100%. The success of that plan is going to be dictated by how much food that client is willing to provide for those deer.
It's a tough dilemma for people, especially when they're buying a property where they have to get some income back off of it from the row crop to help pay for it. And it's kind of a delicate balance. I always have a conversation with my clients, even at first, whether they're going to timber the property, try to harvest logs off of it. But, people got to pay for it too. So we have to understand what the financial needs of the client are. And it might change over time. They might be able to pull back after they've made a certain amount of money for a few years and then dedicate more. So we try to take that into our plan as best we can.
Yeah, and then I did 2 properties for 2 brothers, and 2 totally different kinds of properties. They weren't even close together. I mean, I did one day, one another day. One brother, you and I met at Shipshawana. I won't mention first names. We'll just call them the Ute brothers. And the one that was at the Shipshawana show, super serious deer hunter. And his brother is pretty serious also, but not quite to that extreme level. And then their properties were just day and night different. One was in really big hill country, and the other one was in very flat terrain. I mean, those properties were, probably a couple hours apart in just 2 totally different regions. And I just found it interesting that the 2 brothers there were some differences in the brothers, but there was also the differences in the brothers' properties. And but I think they're both going to buy into the plan. They both were, all ears and lots of questions, and I think they're both going to buy in. But I mean, that was kind of interesting to see that play out. I seen ruffed grouse on 2 different properties this week. I don't know that I have. Well, yeah, I have seen grouse before on some of my western hunts years ago, but I bet it's been at least 20-some years since I've seen a grouse. And this week I seen grouse on 2 different properties. But, I mean, that's one of the fun things about what we do is just we cover so much territory and just get to see so many different things. You might have seen the post I made about the kiddie pool.
Yep.
With the Tony LaPratte debate. Yeah, so
talk a little bit about that.
When we had the Tony LaPratte debate, I was put on the spot about kiddie pools. Well, I just so happened to come across a kiddie pool on a property and took a picture and made a social media post. But that kiddie pool was on a ridge top in the heart of the property where I basically where I made the sanctuary. So getting in to fill that kiddie pool would have been a real challenge. That was kind of interesting. There's a lot of red osier dogwood up here. So, get on the internet, and it seems like the internet gets on these different crazes, as far as habitat things. Like, recently it's been bashing switchgrass or bashing miscanthus. Of course, the miscanthus bashing's been on for a while now, but you get these people that think they're pros at it, and they want to bash just because they didn't have good luck with it or with something. But the red osier dogwood shrub craze has been going on for a year or so now, and I've got so many questions about red osier dogwoods. Well, up here in this country, in the swampy, marshy type areas, there's a lot of that red osier dogwood, and I think people got to realize that there's a place for that, and there's a environment where that stuff will grow really well, as with any other plant. It's not like you can just plant red osier dogwoods wherever you want and they're going to do fantastic. That's not the case at all. And I got a couple days left before I get home, and I'm looking for an opportunity to pull my truck over along the side of the road and make a video in a bunch of red osier dogwood, because it's very plentiful up here, and it is fantastic browse. The deer love it. That's another thing I like about what we do is we see all these different environments, and as we go from one region of the country to another, we see the plant species change. And so I'm as far north as I've been all year, and the plant species are like totally different than what I've seen in like western Kentucky earlier in the winter. And I've done consulting as far down as southern Georgia. I was in Maryland this winter, and I've been out in Kansas, and all those regions, you just see plant species that you don't see in the other regions, be it trees or shrubs or whatever. And I just think that's very interesting as well.
Well, speaking of different terrains and types of projects, our group is going to take on our first special project that I know of. You may have done some that I don't know about, but one of our real-world dealers actually acquired a very large tract of ground in southeastern Kentucky which was one of the original release sites of the elk reestablishment in the state of Kentucky. So this large tract of ground was reclaimed strip mine that the Fish and Wildlife and the coal mine operation, when they wanted to put elk back into Kentucky, this was one of the original sites. It's a huge tract of ground, well over 1,000 acres, and we've been asked to go in and help develop a better habitat. But get this, there's certain areas of the farm they want for elk and certain areas they want for whitetail. Because, you know, elk need completely different habitat. They like the big canopies, you know, a lot of shade, big pastures, prairies, where the deer want it thick. So with this much ground, I'm going to be visiting it tomorrow. Obviously, my specialty is more on the whitetail side, but we're going to try to develop different parts of this property to work with the state of Kentucky and the landowners in that area to develop and further promote the reinstitution of the elk herd here in Kentucky. So that's kind of cool. It's my first project. Obviously, I'm there for the deer side, but I'm excited about it.
Yeah, you know, I've been trying to draw a Kentucky elk tag forever. I apply every year, and obviously I haven't got one yet. If I do end up getting one, I guess I know who to call.
We have a connection now with our consulting business that we can definitely pull a favor in. So, so for all the folks, by the way, I stopped by a property today that I did 2 years ago. And Don, I think I may have chosen this property as one of the best properties I've ever been on 2 years ago, the first year we did it. And wouldn't you know it, on the west side of this property, an outfitter leased the property. And there is a guy sitting right on the property line, and ladder stand literally in a tree that the line fence goes down, and they're trying to figure out how to deal with it. Every single week it's a new hunter in there hunting, no matter what the wind is, you know, completely tromping through. Said one morning one guy couldn't find the stand, and he was just walking back and forth on the property line. So I stopped by and visited them today and talked to them a little bit about it. They've been great friends, huge supporters of Lester's Feet, but stopped by, and it's a long way of getting to. These guys have this cabin in eastern Kentucky that has the coolest taxidermy mounts, and I took pictures of it, and I just want to show people. This first one that I got on the screen right now is literally 2 bobcats trying to crawl up this tree to get a raccoon in the top on this limb. And the other one was an otter hanging on this rock that was made on the side of the wall with a dead fish laying on it, like on the rock. So the fish wasn't mounted like a normal fish. It was laying flat, and it was some of the coolest taxidermy. You've been to all these people's properties. You've probably seen the same types of things that people have in their hunting cabins or houses, and I just thought that was so cool. I asked permission to share that picture, so I wanted to do that before the break.
Yeah, you know, one of the neatest displays that I ever seen was down in your neck of the woods, really not far from Cincinnati, just west of Cincinnati a little bit. This guy had in his cabin, his cabin had a big open room, you know, that was up probably at least 2 stories, if not 3 stories, but he had this cedar tree, and this cedar tree, a real cedar tree, it was dead. It was just like the trunk and the branches, but the cedar tree was so big you could put a tree stand in it, and just had like all kinds of mounts around it and old, you know, antique stuff, old, like a no hunting sign from way back hanging on that tree.
Did you have a turkey roosted up in it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So,
are you there?
Yep.
Did he have a turkey mounted, roosted up in the tree? I think I saw a picture of this.
Yeah.
I think you showed me a picture of it.
Yeah. It was neat.
Yeah, that's really cool. All right, we're going to take a quick break and listen to a spot from Osseo and come back. I got a couple other cool things that are happening right now. We'll be right back after this message from Osseo.
Osseo Gear has perfected one of the most innovative camo patterns on the market. The unique camo pattern designed to mimic the feather patterns of one of North America's greatest predators, the great horned owl. Combined with intuitive features, superior comfort, and ultra high quality fabrics, give bow hunters the ultimate advantage. Osseo has outfitted over 10,000 bow hunters across the country with over 1,000 5-star reviews. Visit asiogear.com to check it out for yourself. Use code CHASINGGIANTS for 15% off.
Well, Don, in other big news, I got a delivery today. My PH M7 drill arrived, and for those people who do not know, the new M series is kind of a economy version of a drill that Paul came out with to try to target deer hunters and food plotters. It's not quite as heavy as the G series drill. It has one big cultipacker on the back instead of individual closing wheels, but he has a 7-footer. That the critical part of this is it's the perfect weight and size to cover the back tires of, say, that 55, 65, 75 horsepower tractor, but isn't so heavy it makes the front end of the tractor light, because those G series are really, really heavy, and there's a lot of guys with those 55, 60 horsepower tractors that are having to, pull a 5-foot drill. So I'm really excited. I told him at ATA when I saw the first one there that this would make a huge impact on the food plotting community, especially people that don't necessarily have to no-till drill switchgrass or stuff in the frozen ground where they need that weight of the no-till drill. But Paul keeps innovating new products. Follow him on PH Drills. We actually work with Wildlife Farming, who is their distributor of it. They sell all kinds of implements and accessories for tractors, but we're going to be doing a lot of content on this new PH M7 drill. They've just posted a lot of information about it on social media, so make sure you go check it out. Speaking of Chasing Giants TV, did you get a chance to watch Mike Mitchell's debut on our YouTube channel this week?
No, I've been on the road and haven't watched anything like that, but I did see it on social media. I just didn't click on it and watch it yet.
So we're trying to do a whole lot better job giving educational stuff this year with our habitat work, and Mike Mitchell got on there. And remember when we were walking around his orchard and he kept referencing Brian's method versus just planting a tree a regular way? Well, he actually broke down Brian's method. So Brian was the original inventor of Mike's Mighty Micros. He was Mike Mitchell's agronomist, and he passed away, and Mike Mitchell is carrying on the Mike's Mighty Micros through that product line through his orchard. But Mike did a video of how to take timber soil, so basically living organism soil that you find in the forest floor, and take that and use that to backfill your fruit trees, and what that does for microorganisms and living soil and how it helps your fruit trees. So if you did not catch that, make sure you check that out on our YouTube channel. I think stuff like that I think is really lacking, and we're trying to bring more of that to our YouTube channel this spring.
Yeah, and food plot season's right around the corner. I've been getting a lot of questions, and man, the orders at Real World have really been rolling in lately. But I made a post today for any local folks that if you want to save shipping and save the drive to the Arthur office to pick your seed up, you're welcome to contact me and pick it up at my house. And if I don't have it there, I can usually have it there within a day or two. And even if I'm not home, I can leave that seed where you can pick it up at your convenience. So just trying to help out the local customers.
Yeah, and there's people that are driving through for different business or whatever. If you call and ask, we can even wrap it to where it can sit in the back of the truck, heavy shrink wrap, and try to watertight it as best we can. So if you communicate to us, we can help with about anything. The staff there goes above and beyond with everything that we can do to do it. Before we go to the next episode, I know Hawk Optics is a new partner of ours, and they kind of, we broke out this segment for us. And I know Cameron and all the folks at Hawk will understand. On the Chasing Assurance podcast every week, we actually have a Lester's Feet segment. And we don't do that on this podcast, but there is a very serious situation that I would like to take about 3 or 4 minutes of our show today and explain, because we have so many listeners around the country. And I'm going to share, for those watching on YouTube, I'm going to share my screen and show a picture of a family, and then I'm going to read this story. This family is originally from down around the Auburn, Russellville area. You've had clients down around Guthrie, Russellville, Auburn, in the western Kentucky area. But this family is Kyle and Kendra Yoder. They were on a mission in the mission field in Kenya, Africa, for a little over 2 years. And on February 27th, Miss Kendra, who's in the center of the picture, gave birth to their 5th child, Zeke. And we're not sure what happened, but the baby was just a couple weeks old. And on March 22nd, Kendra got up to feed the baby and passed away. So the family is in the middle of moving back to the United States, bringing the body back. I believe that there's going to be a funeral here coming this week. And just a sad, sad story for a family who is right in the middle of celebrating the birth of another child, serving the Lord in the mission field over in Africa, and the mom suddenly passing away. So our good friends, actually, we have a real world dealer in Auburn, Andre Miller. It's family of his. And so they reached out this week just to let me know about it. So I'm going to just take a break here and ask, let's take a break from deer hunting, and please everybody say a prayer for this Kyle Yoder's family and his 5 children that are coming back home without a mom. And as they bury her back here this week, and if anybody feels compelled to help the family, there is a GoFundMe link that I'll put in the text below with whatever platform you're watching or listening, or feel free to write a check to Lester's Feet and earmark it Kendra in the memo line, and we will get 100% of that money forwarded directly to their account that's being set up so that they can, take some time and not only grieve, but get their kind of things established back here as they're suddenly coming back to the United States. So I appreciate the understanding. It's just such a sad, sad story. I heard about it this week, and we have so many listeners of the podcast, especially those in the Mennonite community, that may have not heard about this situation of this missionary in Kenya that lost her life, and they're having to come back. So again, the family's name is Kyle Yoder. The lady who passed is Kendra. If you feel led to help the family out, look at the GoFundMe link below or send money to Lester, and we'll leave that information down below also. But I think every once in a while we need to do the right thing, and that's take a quick break and, in this case, ask for prayers for this family. It's a pretty sad story.
Yeah, definitely sad and tragic situation, and we'll certainly be keeping that family in our prayers.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about trade show. You're going to make, by the time this airs, it will already be over, but you're going to be at the big deer show in Wisconsin tomorrow, and our buddy Scott Fennendal's booth. Talk about a guy who has been able to grow his business, and from what started as almost nothing to a very well-established, successful business. But you're going to be hanging out with him in the booth for a little while tomorrow, right?
Yeah, the booth is for Extreme Custom Food Plots. Scott was our first distributor for Real World Wildlife Products way back in the day, and he's been a very, very loyal supporter of Real World. Does not carry any other seed. He plants, I don't know, probably thousands. I think he told me he had 1,500 acres of food plots lined up to plant this spring, and I don't think that counts as switchgrass and all the miscanthus he plants and everything else, but he doesn't buy any other seed. He's been very loyal to us, and we certainly appreciate him. And when I was going to be in Wisconsin anyway for this show, made it a point to take a day and go spend the time in his booth.
Yeah, for those who don't know, on the Real World website, there is a link called Trade Shows where all of our dealers can email into the office and ask for their information for their booth, where you can go in and look and see if there's a trade show close to you and save shipping costs. So one more quick announcement before we go to the Higgins Hot Seat. You'll notice, for those watching, I got my Boone Brothers shirt on today. We announced our partnership with Boone Brothers several weeks ago, but there's been a huge development with Boone Brothers. They actually got around some USDA kind of, I don't know what the right way of saying it without offending someone, but we're never worried about that anyway. But they navigated some political just garbage, and they're actually able to use a beef version. So the scalability of us being able to feed more children and expand is actually escalating. So as we're working with that organization to scale and move into other states, we can actually use beef in we're still going to do the venison, but what that does is we don't have a seasonal supply chain. We can actually get access to meat throughout the year to continue to feed more kids. So it's big news for us. Make sure you go to Boone Brothers' website. You can get hoodies, apparel, all that kind of stuff, and help support the financial side of it if you want to check that out. So you ready to move on to the Higgins hot seat question here tonight there, Don?
I'm ready. Fire away.
We're going to change the topic away from the outdoor industry, and then we're going to celebrate a little bit of March Madness because your Illini got to the Sweet 16 and they pulled out a win last night to get to the Elite Eight. So you are a basketball fan. People might not know that, but you are a college basketball fan, have been for a long time. Support your Illini. Who is going to win the national championship this year, Don?
Well, my heart says the Illini. They've got as good a team as they've had in a long time. Of course, they've got to win 3 more games, and the first one being tomorrow. They got to play Iowa. And I look at the teams that are left. There's some tough teams left. I mean, West Elks' Purdue team will be a tough team to play. You got Duke. Michigan will be a good one. I think if Illinois played Michigan State, they would have no trouble beating Michigan State. But Michigan would give them a handful. Purdue would be a handful.
Arizona's so big. I think
Arizona
and Michigan might be the match.
Yeah, I agree.
They
There's
gave
about 4 or 5.
Calipari a really good butt whipping last night, and I was kind of excited and happy to see that. But that's just pettiness on my part for Calipari.
Yep.
Well, maybe Duke's playing right now. We're recording here on Friday evening, and Duke's playing right now. So Dukies, us Kentucky fans aren't fans of the Dukies, so maybe they'll get beat tonight. So, but what's your prediction? Your heart's saying Illini, but what's your prediction to go on the record?
Well, since there's really no standout team, I'm going to go with my heart, and I'm going to say Illinois. But if it's not Illinois, it's going to be. I think Duke can be beat too. I think Michigan is really good. I'd say Michigan, Arizona.
Did you actually fill out a bracket?
No, I don't have time for that.
Yeah, after
all
of my family filled out brackets.
After Selection Sunday, you got about 2 days before those play-in games, and it always slips my mind, and that's always my busy season with consulting and everything as well. So I just don't get it done.
Yeah, I'm watching. We're in the second half of the Duke game right now. It is tied 65-65 with 6 minutes left. So maybe our old boy Rick Pitino can take down the Duke one more time. St. John's and Duke is playing right now. They're tied with 6 minutes left. So you never know.
Duke does get beat. I'm not a Duke fan either.
Yeah.
They're a bunch of
all
snobs.
of us Kentucky fans are not Duke fans. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little bit different Higgins hot seat question for this week, and we're celebrating March Madness. But before we go on to the Midwest Land Group segment, we're closing in before people hear us next time. It's going to be Easter, and we got a short week this week with Good Friday, and then celebrating Easter. What's your plans for Easter and any thoughts about that before we go into the next segment?
Well, I don't have any special plans other than going to church and then spending time with family. Robin's ready for me to be home. If I had any plans that doesn't include her and family, I'm afraid she might take a frying pan to the side of my head or something. So, but I mean, that's what I would want to do anyway. So, got to have our priorities in order.
Yeah. This first 3 months of the year, we go, people don't understand how hard we go and how much we're on the road. I mean, there's not a minute to breathe, it feels like sometimes, but we're so blessed that we can, for 3 months, push hard like this and then hunt full time the last half of the year. So we're not complaining by any means.
No, I've had a couple people get a little bit upset with me recently because I'm slow to answer or return calls or texts, but I literally get over 100 a day. And that's not an exaggeration whatsoever. I actually get over 100 just emails. And then you throw text and phone calls on top of that, and it's just impossible to keep up. When I'm driving down the road, if I could be driving 3 or 4 hours a day on these consulting days, and I'm spending that entire drive time answering text and returning phone calls. And even at that, and I had somebody try to put me on a guilt trip recently, and it's not even a client. And it's like, you don't understand.
What would we do without that voice to text in our new trucks? If we were still driving our old trucks where we couldn't answer text by voice, I don't know what we would do.
Well, I know what I'd be doing. I'd be crashing probably, because I'd trying to be typing out with my hand instead of driving. But those trucks sure make it nice.
All right, well, let's go on to the Midwest Land Group. Our listener submitted questions for this week. We'll be right back.
Ever had a terrible real estate experience? Average realtors usually spend more time selling themselves than on selling your land. They'll tell you anything to get the listing. They know that if they get the listing, you're stuck with them. Not here. Midwest Land Group has changed the way land is sold and is the only brokerage to offer a 100% satisfaction guarantee. That means if we don't meet your expectations, you can fire us. That puts all the pressure on us to perform. We don't just list land, we sell it. If you're looking to buy or sell property, don't before you talk to us. Visit us at MidwestLandGroup.com.
All right, the first question comes from Brian Isler from Granville, Ohio. It says, thank you, Don and Terry, for all you do for the hunting community. My boys and I went to your master class a few years ago. I don't see that you have another one scheduled. Are you going to have another one in the near future, or do you have other ideas in mind? Well, Brian, the reason I picked your question is I get this question a lot. People want to come to that class. I suspended it because we was putting too much pressure on the property, and it wasn't worth it to me. The last year that we had it, my neighbor told me that he counted 48 deer run out of my patch the one day we was having the property tour. So I kind of suspended that. I've tried to come up with something that could be done on the property because so many people want to see it. And also, someone formerly associated with me likes to spread lies about the property and high fences and such, that I just get a thrill out of people coming and expecting to see high fences everywhere, and there aren't any, at least to the degree that it's been promoted by at least one person. And the other thing is, I've added so much acreage to the property that now it would be about a 3-mile walk, a minimum 3-mile walk to cover it all. And if I could control the weather, where I could put a rack wagon behind a tractor and slowly do the tour that way, I'd be all for it. But the issue with that is I don't know what the weather's going to be, and I'm not going to rut up the whole farm with a tractor and a rack wagon to have these classes. So I would like at some point probably to do something again, but I'm going to have to slow down a little bit from one thing. So I don't see anything in the near future, but I'd definitely like to get some people on the farm for no other reason than to clear up some rumors that have been spread about it.
Well, and I think the new orchards that you've put in, give them a couple years to mature a little bit and get a little bit bigger. You've added this other acreage, putting the miscanthus in. All of it looks phenomenal. So yeah, I think we really enjoy that, to be honest with you, because we get, a couple sessions of those over a longer weekend and really it's different than just a podcast or us doing a seminar where you really get to know and talk with people over, the full day. It's usually we do an evening thing and then an all day the next day, and it's a lot of fun. So hopefully soon, but also letting the property and the expansion that you've done mature a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm not ruling it out, but probably not in the near future.
You got the next one on the screen?
I do not. All right, there it is. Josh Myers from Wellington, Ohio. He says, hey, Don and Terry, longtime listener and user of real-world products, I want to thank you for this and the Chasing Assurance podcast. My question is using simazine or atrazine on a miscanthus planting on the edge of my clover plot. Will the pre-emergent spread out past the area I spray for the miscanthus? I don't mind losing a little bit of clover for the screening, but don't want it to affect the rest of the clover or nearby fruit trees. The plot is about half an acre of clover and gingrich trees. Thanks and God bless. Well, Josh, the pre-emergent's not going to affect your trees whatsoever, and it's probably not going to affect your clover unless you get a really strong dose. So I don't see it as something to be too worried about.
So the pre-emergent doesn't, I think he's asking about, will it leach? I think there's two things. Number one, if it don't do it if the wind's blowing and drifting a long way, but will it actually leach into the ground and go beyond where he sprays it?
Well, most pre-emergents, they're not going to kill an established plant. They're going to prevent new plants, new seeds from growing. So I think it would be very minimal, unless it was, like a really high rate.
Gotcha. Okay. We got a little bit of a delay here, so hopefully it's coming through on the recording pretty well.
Yeah, I apologize, folks. This will be my last recording from a motel for quite a while now, but we'll make the best of it. Next question comes from Keaton Mitchell from Mount Vernon, Illinois. He says, "Hey, Don and Terry, I appreciate the realism on the podcast. Not a lot of people are straightforward and honest like you guys are. In late season, do bucks go back to their bachelor groups? I tend to get pictures of 2 to 3 bucks together on my trail cameras. If so, yes, why do they do that? Thank you guys once again for the wisdom you share." Well, Keaton, what happens is those bucks after the rut into the winter months, they all get concentrated. Well, the whole deer herd gets concentrated on the prime food sources in an area, and that brings those bucks together. And then, as spring approaches, a lot of times when the weather breaks, that they'll move off of those food sources, and the bucks just stay together. And yeah, it might be just 2 or 3, but it could be a dozen or more, just depending on the population where you're at. I've often wondered how soon the bucks return to their summer range. And then a few years ago, I actually, there's an area where I know there's always a bachelor group in the summer, but there's not deer there in the winter. And I happened to be out there in March doing some tree stand work and bumped a group of bucks that were already on that summer range in March. So I think a lot of that kind of depends on the weather, but you start getting some warm days and those deer start covering some territory and moving back to their summer range.
Yeah, I think you made that was that last year or 2 years ago? It all runs together for me, but you made a big point about that on a previous episode, how you've kind of noticed they're starting to think that they bachelor up a whole lot earlier than what we originally thought.
Yep. Yeah, before the antlers even start growing back. I know right now, I've already got pictures of bachelor groups. I got just a handful of cameras I leave out year-round on my farm, mainly for trespassers and to monitor dogs and things that I don't want going on. So I've got some pictures so far of bachelor groups already. So I know that the bucks are already grouped up.
Okay. We'll get the next one up on the screen in just a second. You can start reading it as soon as it comes up.
This one comes from Luke Shelton from Moores Hill, Indiana. It says, "Don and Terry, this is not really a question. I just want to give you a shout out to the staff at Real World and Green Prairie Seed. I had ordered custom pollinator mix and the biologist had questions. I called the contact I had talked to and this employee answered before working times, had not considered the time difference, and within the hour had the info I needed to give us to the state. They also followed up with my local dealer who followed up with me. Customer service at its finest. Thanks for your hard work and dedication that we pursue." The reason even though this is not a question, the reason I picked it is there is a new CRP sign up. Actually, it's expired now, general sign up, but there's going to be a lot of CRP plantings coming up if not this year, in next year. But anybody that's out there listening and has a CRP project, we custom blend just anything you can dream up. We've got it. I think we've got about 400 different forb and wild grass or wild flower species. And then I think there's over 150 grasses and other things that come in to some of these things. If you want the cheapest, or if you want the most expensive, or if you want the showiest, like for wildflowers, some of those wildflowers are extremely expensive. But whatever you want, we got it, and we can custom mix it for you. So if you guys got CRP projects, email us with the seed mix that you want. We don't want to tell you what to plant. You need to run by your local USDA office first and make sure they're going to approve it. We're not going to mix something and send it to you. You're going to tell us what you want, and then we can mix it. But we can mix anything. So you dream it up, and we got the seed to create that blend that you need.
It was one of the benefits of the acquisition of Kitchen Seed, which then became Green Prairie, is that now we have access for our customers and our dealers. Our dealers are in a great position now because they have access to everything from lawn seed to CRP to pasture seed for their local farmers. So with this acquisition of the old Kitchen Seed company that became Green Prairie, we can do just about any seed to soil project that you have, including soil health. So I hope it's been as big of a blessing to our dealer network as it's been to us, because it gives us so much more flexibility in product development that we never had before.
Yeah, it's going fantastic too. I talked to Corey today, and we got some special pasture mixes, and we've sold more pasture mix. Here we are, not even in April yet, and we really haven't had the best planting conditions, or very small windows, and we've already sold more pasture mix than we've ever sold in the past. So things are going good. We could get whatever you want, so just reach out to us.
All right. We got some really hardworking people too, so we really appreciate them. If they're listening, hopefully they get a little bit of a smile on their face for a shout out.
Yep, they've done a great job with that transition. So shout out to Corey and Dwayne and Janice and the whole team. This next one comes from Mike Carey from Evans Mills, New York. Says, "Hi Don and Terry, I can't quit trying until I get one of your great t-shirts." Well, you got her now, Mike. Maybe this could be a hot seat question. Don, with everyone knowing that your farm sits out in ag country kind of by itself, and all the hype with drone use today and some people's jealousy, what would you do if you were sitting in your favorite stand and a drone showed up following your moves, or even messing with the deer on your place in some way to screw up your hunt? Even being done more than once or twice. Thanks for all you guys do to help the thousands of us that tune in weekly. God bless. Well, Mike, I have a plan that will be revealed in the coming weeks. There is something that a landowner can do to address the drone situation. And this technology that I've learned about, we're going to be sharing it in the coming weeks. And folks, be sure to tune in. If you have any concern whatsoever about people abusing drones on your property, there is a solution. And I'm going to go into detail. I've just promised someone that I would not say anything until the time is right to release the info. But I wanted to throw this out as a teaser because your question just came in at the right time. And I promise you that if a drone flies over my property, I'm going to know it, and I'm going to address it.
The time is near. It's not here, but the time is near, so it won't be long. We'll be able to share that with you guys. All right, we're gonna do one extra question since one of them technically wasn't a question. Let's throw an extra one up here for today.
This one comes from Mark Matthews from Weaverville, North Carolina. It says, Don, my question is about TSI improvements. What, if any, improvements do you do to your timber, specifically the sanctuary part of it? With spring coming, I have been getting more and more advertisements for trees and shrubs to plant for wildlife. Are red osier dogwoods really a good choice to plant, along with hinge cutting, to build up a dense sanctuary and provide browse? Also, what, if any, other trees or shrubs do you recommend? Thanks for any tips or advice you can give on this. Well, Mark, we was talking about that earlier in the red osier dogwoods. I don't know who in the heck opened the can of worms with red osier dogwoods, but they got this guy down in North Carolina thinking about planting red osier dogwoods. The best advice I can give you is when you're considering any kind of plant on your farm, that you go to the USDA website and look for the range for that plant where it thrives. And you can look up red osier dogwoods. I wish I would have done it before I got on here. Just with so much going on, it just slipped my mind because I meant to do that. Maybe Terry can do that while I'm talking here and throw that graphic up on the screen. But being in North Carolina, that's not an area that I'm comfortable telling you need to plant this or that. I can tell you shrubs or I can tell you trees, but specifically, you really need to consult someone locally, or you'll get online. And when I say online, that doesn't mean go to social media. We got these people out there that think they're pros, and they're only pros in their own mind. They've got very limited experience. And if I throw out information, it's going to be information that I've got firsthand experience with. I'm not going to let somebody else experiment on something that I think may or may not be right. But here it is. Terry's got the graphics up, and wow, that's a much bigger range than I was expecting. I know it's way more plentiful up here in Wisconsin than any place I've ever traveled to. Very, very plentiful up here. I've seen some in Illinois too.
For those who are not watching on YouTube, basically, and who knows if this graphic is right? Obviously, this is just a nursery that sells them. The line is across southern Virginia, Kentucky, up the Illinois to Iowa and Nebraska. So Kansas, Missouri, Tennessee, North Carolina south is a no-fly zone. So that was just a quick Google search. I'm not sure.
I think I'm going to call BS on that map. You can't tell me that plant does good. I mean, they had it clear up in Alaska and Arizona. You can't tell me that plant is going to thrive in Arizona and Alaska. I call BS.
Well, we will research it for next week's episode. How about that?
Yes, we will. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I don't think so. I've been to Alaska and I've been to Arizona, and I'm telling you what, the vegetation is very, very different in both of those.
Well, I found another map that just had the Pacific Northwest, so who knows? Yeah, I found the second map that had the Pacific Northwest as the only place it would grow, so who knows?
Well, I know that's not true because it's all over Wisconsin.
You're cutting in and out. Are you still there? Are we going to get through it?
Well, mine says it's trying to reconnect. Now it says It's reconnected, but I'm showing 99% uploaded.
Yeah, you just keep cutting out. It's bad Wi-Fi, so I think we can get through it and finish it up. Let's, even though we're a couple minutes early, we'll go ahead and wrap up this week. Emerson Day has our Sunday night prayer time at the end of it. Thanks again for understanding and praying for the family that lost the mother, the missionary over in Kenya, as they come back here this weekend and bury their mom and wife next week. Again, if you want to donate, look at the GoFundMe in the description, or you can send it into Lester's Feet. We'll route the money for you. You can get a tax deduction for your donation if you want it that way. But most of all, keep them in your prayers. Sad situation.
Yeah, God bless everyone. We'll see you back here next week.
Chasing Giants has been brought to you by Osseo Camo. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week for another episode of Chasing Giants.